Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister spends another night at hospital. This story takes the lead in our 1025th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 11th January 2021. Details when we return. Welcome back. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has spent yet another night at the West Shore Medical after undergoing tests and 2 medical procedures relating to his heart. TV6's reporter Alicia Boucher, together with a cameraman, spent several hours at the medical facility and filed this report.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's daughter Tonya Rowley was seen heading into the West Shore Medical Private Hospital around noon. A woman who said she was a People's National Movement supporter also visited the facility, telling the media she was hoping to see the Prime Minister. However, foreseeably, that request was denied. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is still here at West Shore Medical after being admitted yesterday evening when he complained of having some discomfort. His wife Sharon Rowley and one of his daughters are both with him at this time. In a press release this morning from the Office of the Prime Minister, it indicated that the Prime Minister had spent the night overnight in a comfortable state and in addition had to undergo other tests today. That process is still underway. In a subsequent release a little while ago, the Office of the Prime Minister indicated that he would be kept overnight for further observations, as well as confirming that he did receive a coronary angiogram as well as an angioplasty. Both procedures, as stated in the correspondence, were successful, and the overnight stay is in keeping with normal protocols based on the medical procedures. An angiogram, according to the Mayo Clinic, is a procedure that uses X-ray imaging to see your heart's blood vessels. The test is generally done to see if there is a restriction in blood flow going to the heart. Meanwhile, an angioplasty is a procedure done to open clogged arteries and restore blood flow. A tiny balloon catheter is inserted in a blocked blood vessel to help widen it. It is deemed as a minimal invasive surgery, and patients are usually kept at hospital between 12 and 24 hours after. A high level of security, including the Prime Minister's security detail as well as members of the police service, remained on the hospital's compound throughout the day. The Office of the Prime Minister is thanking the citizenry who send their prayers and well wishes, all in the hopes that the Prime Minister is discharged soon. The Office of the Prime Minister says it would keep the citizenry updated as soon as the information comes to hand. Reporting from outside of West Shore Medical, I am Alicia Boucher for TV6 News.
Trinidad and Tobago is not leaving the Organization of American States, but it will not participate in or vote in support of any motion put forward or sponsored by or on behalf of what it calls a purported representative of Venezuela, since it says it withdrew from the OAS in 2017. The statement was made by the Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Ministry just days after the OAS said it continues to recognize Juan Guaido as interim president and not President Nicolas Maduro. TV6's Jewel Brown reports.
The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs says that Trinidad and Tobago values highly the contribution of the OAS and recognizes the importance of ensuring that there is no compromise to the organization's integrity and that of its legitimate members. The ministry says the government of Trinidad and Tobago will therefore continue to participate actively in the meetings and deliberations convened by the OAS, including voting on matters and resolutions as required and as appropriate. But in reference to recent statements made by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, the ministry said Trinidad and Tobago will not participate in or vote in support a country which drew from the OAS in 2017 or of any other country who is improperly seated at meetings of the OAS. The ministry issued a statement on Friday, January 8th, 3 days after the OAS issued a statement on January 5th, in which it said its General Secretariat welcomes the re-election of the interim president and president of the National Assembly, Juan Guaido, which took place on that day within what it called the framework of the law, with the support of 100 parliamentarians and complying with the quorum in accordance with the relevant regulations. The OAS said, based on respect for constitutional norms, its General Secretariat will continue to recognize Interim President Juan Guaido and his duly appointed cabinet as the legitimate authority of the country. Nicolas Maduro claimed the victory and another term as president in Venezuela's elections last December against the backdrop of claims of voting fraud, as had been reported in the international media. The OAS website states that it now comprises of 35 independent states of the Americas and has granted permanent observer status to 69 states, as well as to the European Union. The OAS says it uses a four-pronged approach to effectively implement its essential purposes based on its main pillars: democracy, human rights, security, and development. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
The police have reported an approximately 16% reduction in crimes reported in 2020 compared with 2019 in Antigua and Barbuda. The top brass of the force released the figures during a media conference to examine crime and the response to it last year. ABS's reporter Jamie J. Roger fills us in.
Police investigated some 2,370 reports of crime in 2020, a decrease of about 16% compared to 2,836 from 2019. Over the 2 years, the police received the fewest reports, 132, in April 2020, when the country was under COVID-19 lockdown. A breakdown shows decreases in several crimes, including breaking and larceny, predial larceny, wounding, aggravated robbery, shooting, and malicious damage. There were also few reports of rape and unlawful sexual intercourse in 2020. On the other hand, the force saw increased breaking, attempted break-in, robbery, and burglary reports in 2020. Murders are up from 3 to 9.
For the murders, 6 of the 9 murders for 2020 have been solved. Arrests were made in these cases.
The police also investigated missing reports for 13 people and 9 vehicles last year. There were 1,311 arrests, 242 sudden deaths, 908 spent convictions, and 1 deportee. Meanwhile, the fire department recorded an increase in fire calls, but there were fewer house fires in 2020 compared to the previous year. Traffic collisions decreased by 350, and the 4 road deaths in 2020 were 1 more than in 2019. Jimmy J. Rocher, ABS News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
They can't criminalize me. My antecedents are unblemished, so says former Guyanese Attorney General Basil Williams in relation to allegations of breaches of the Procurement Act during his tenure in office. HGP's Wendell Badri has this report.
They can't criminalize me. My antecedents are unblemished. Over 37 years as a lawyer practicing and also as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, no allegations have ever been made against me for bribery, crimes of any nature, and I don't know what's all this fuss and noise they're making in relation to awarding contracts, which is something the PPP has been doing for 33 years, and they will do again for the limited time they are in office, were the words of Basil Williams, former Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, responding to allegations of illegalities surrounding the sourcing of lawyers by his administration during its tenure in office.
It has to be spurious insofar as Nadilal is suggesting to the Auditor General that it is unlawful to outsource cases. All in the CARICOM region, all governments outsource cases.
In his 2019 report, the Auditor General, Deodat Sharma, red flagged a total of $170.8 million Ghana dollars, which he says was spent on 71 contracts awarded to at least 26 attorneys at law and law firms as well as agencies between 2015 and 2020. Sharma explained in his report that the sole sourcing method was used to award the contracts, when in fact, Chapter 7301 at 25.1 of the Procurement Act of 2003 states that public tendering is mandatory. Meanwhile, at 26.1 of the same Act, It states that the procuring entity may engage in procurement by means of restricted tendering in accordance with this section when A. The goods, construction, or services, by reason of their highly complex or specialized nature, are available only from a limited number of suppliers or contractors, in which case all such suppliers or contractors shall be invited to submit tenders. B. If the estimated cost of the contract is below the threshold set forth in the regulations. It was also revealed in the 2019 report that some 58 million Ghana dollars had been expended on local and foreign attorneys to represent the government in the case of the no confidence motion which had been brought against it in 2018. While Attorney General Anil Nandlal shared the view that monies for those cases should have come out of the APNU AFC coffers instead of the states, Williams posited that the government has a right to defend itself in legal matters brought against it. Meanwhile, in relation to the breaches of the Procurement Act, the Auditor General recommended that the police be summoned to conduct an in-depth investigation, institute charges where necessary, and enforce disciplinary actions against those culpable. He further recommended that the ministry must do whatever necessary to ensure that there is compliance with the Procurement Act moving forward. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
Wendell Badri again reports that leader of the opposition in Guyana, Joseph Harman, has written to the incoming chairman of CARICOM, Dr. Keith Rowley, stating that we are confident that you will attend to matters which are of concern and distress to Guyanese and those across the region with forthcoming solutions in our best interest. Here are some more details.
In a letter penned to the incoming chair of CARICOM, Dr. Keith Rowley, who is also the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, leader of the opposition in Guyana, Joseph Harman, has said that he looks forward to the leadership, support, and advocacy in the issues of democracy and justice in Guyana from the new chairman. In a letter seen by this newscast, Harman said, and I quote, "As you assume chairmanship at this crucial juncture in our history, we are confident that you will attend to matters which are both of concern and distress to the people of Guyana and the region, and to pursue solutions which are in our best interest." End quote. He went on to thank the chair for his keen interest with regard to the 2020 electoral saga, where he maintained that the current administration had been illegitimately installed based on fraudulent votes, and further outlined that the challenge of the election results has been mounted by way of the courts via 2 election petitions filed by the coalition opposition. The next hearing date for the petitions has been set for January 18, 2021. Harman further accused the incumbent administration of embarking on a campaign against public servants who are predominantly Afro-Guyanese and those who are perceived to be aligned to the APNU AFC coalition, where he stated that over 1,000 such persons have been fired from their respective jobs, including single mothers who are the sole breadwinners of their homes. He even stated that some apolitical professionals have been targeted through arrests and trumped-up charges being laid against them. The opposition leader further highlighted that the PPP government is seemingly unwilling to share information with independent investigators into the heinous killings of 3 teenagers on the west coast of Berbice, while accusing the government of sheltering the perpetrators of the crimes. He further pronounced on the alleged unfair distribution of COVID-19 cash grants, which has been earmarked and approved by the National Assembly for the citizens of the country. He stated that instead of using public officials to carry out the distribution exercise, the government handpicked party supporters to do so. "I look forward to engaging you to discuss these and other critical matters in the near future, even if virtually, as necessitated by the circumstances," end quote, Harman concluded. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.